When I was a young girl, I loved to run through the fields near my home. The sun would shine on my face, and the wind would play with my hair. I felt like life would last forever. Everything was simple. I had no worries about tomorrow. I believed that every day was a gift, but I did not understand how precious it really was. One day, something happened that changed my view forever. It all started with a small bird. That morning, I woke up early and decided to go for a walk. The grass was wet with dew, and the air smelled fresh and clean. As I walked, I heard a soft sound coming from the bushes. Curious, I moved closer and saw a tiny bird lying on the ground. Its wing was hurt, and it could not fly. I carefully picked it up with my hands. The bird looked at me with bright, shining eyes. I felt something deep inside my heart, a feeling I could not explain. I took the bird home and made a small bed for it from an old box and some cloth. Every day I gave it water and small pieces of bread. Slowly, the bird began to heal. It started to move its wings again. It chirped softly, and its eyes were full of life. Watching the bird get stronger made me feel happy. I realized that life, even a small life, is full of hope and beauty. I understood that every living thing fights to live, no matter how small. After 2 weeks, the bird was ready to fly again. I took it outside and opened my hands. For a moment, the bird sat still, looking at me. Then it spread its wings and flew into the bright blue sky. I watched it until it became just a tiny dot in the air. My heart felt both happy and a little sad. I had helped it live, and now it was free. That moment taught me something important. Life is not just about breathing. Life is about freedom, growth, and dreams. As I grew older, I started to see life differently. I saw my parents working hard every day. They smiled, but sometimes their faces looked tired. They worked not just for themselves, but for me and my sister. I realized that life is also about giving and caring for others. It is about sharing love and support, even when it is not easy. The value of life is not measured by how much we take, but by how much we give. This idea stayed with me as I became an adult. One winter evening, when I was 17, I went to visit my grandfather. He lived alone in a small house at the edge of the village. The air was cold, and snow covered the ground like a white blanket. Grandfather was sitting by the fire, holding a photo in his hands. It was a photo of my grandmother, who had passed away many years ago. He smiled when he saw me, but his eyes looked a little sad. I sat next to him, and we talked for hours. That night, he told me stories about his life, his love, and his dreams. Grandfather said something that stayed in my heart forever. He said, "Life is not counted by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away." I listened carefully. He spoke about simple joys, watching the sunrise, hearing a child's laugh, feeling the rain on your face. He said these small things are what make life valuable. It is not about how long we live. It is about how deeply we live. Every smile, every tear, every hug, they all matter. They are the true treasures of life. Years passed, and I went to the city to study. City life was fast and noisy. People rushed everywhere, always busy, always in a hurry. At first, I liked the excitement, but after some time, I started to feel empty inside. I missed the fields, the slow walks, the talks by the fire. I missed the feeling of being alive. One evening, I walked to a park and sat on a bench. I watched the children play and the old couples walk hand in hand. I remembered my grandfather's words about the value of life. That night, I made a decision. I would not just chase money, fame, or success. I would live a life full of meaning. I would stop to watch the sunsets. I would laugh with friends. I would help others when they needed me. I would listen more, love more, and forgive more. I realized that real success is not about what we have, but about who we become. I promised myself that I would never forget the true value of life. And from that moment, everything started to change. Now, many years later, I look back with a thankful heart. I have faced good times and hard times. I have cried, laughed, loved, and lost. But through it all, I have never stopped seeing the beauty of life. I have learned that every life is a miracle. Every day is a gift. And every moment is a chance to make a difference. Life is not perfect, but it is precious. And when we understand its true value, we begin to live fully, deeply, and joyfully. This, I believe, is the greatest lesson of all. One cold night, I got a phone call that shook my world. It was my sister. Her voice was shaking. "Come quickly," she said. "Dad had a heart attack." I dropped everything and ran out into the dark. The streets felt longer than ever before. My heart beat fast, my hands were cold, and my mind was full of fear. Was he going to live? Would I see him smile again? In that moment, I understood how quickly life can change. When I reached the hospital, I saw my mother sitting alone in the hallway. Her eyes were red. Her hands were shaking. I sat beside her and took her hand. She said nothing, just looked at me with pain in her eyes. After some time, the doctor came. His face was serious. "He's stable for now," he said. "But the next 24 hours are critical." I nodded, but I could barely breathe. I walked into my father's room and saw him lying there, pale and quiet. He looked so small, so different from the strong man I knew. I sat beside his bed all night, holding his hand. Memories rushed through my mind. The time he taught me to ride a bike, the way he laughed when we played in the rain, the stories he told by the fireplace. Tears fell down my face, but I didn't wipe them. I whispered to him, "Please stay. I still need you." His eyes stayed closed, but I hoped he could hear me. In that long, silent night, I realized something painful and powerful. We often see the true value of life only when we fear losing it. The next morning, something happened. My father opened his eyes. Weak but alive. He smiled, and it was the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. I cried like a child. That moment felt like a second chance. A miracle. I promised myself I would never take life for granted again. Not my life, not anyone's life. Every heartbeat is a gift. And sometimes we don't know that until we almost lose someone we love. After that day, I changed. I stopped living like I had forever. I started calling my parents more often. I told people I loved them while I still could. I said sorry when I was wrong. I forgave more quickly because I understood that life is short and we never know when it ends. People are not with us forever, so we must love them deeply while they are here. That is the value of life, to love while we still can. One day, I was walking in the rain. Everyone around me was running, hiding under umbrellas. But I walked slowly, letting the rain touch my face. I smiled. A child looked at me and laughed. His mother smiled too. In that small moment, I saw something beautiful. When we live with open hearts, we spread life around us, even in the rain, even in hard times. We can be light for someone else. But life is not always kind. 2 years later, I lost my best friend in an accident. He was full of dreams, full of laughter, and suddenly he was gone. I couldn't believe it. For days, I couldn't eat or sleep. Why did this happen? Why him? The world felt dark and unfair. But then, at his funeral, I heard his mother say, "He lived well. He loved deeply. He was happy." And I knew that was the answer. It's not how long we live, it's how we live. After his death, I started to write letters. Letters to people I loved. Letters to people I had hurt. I wrote what I felt, what I never said. Some I sent, some I kept. But it helped me heal. It helped me understand that silence steals time. If we wait too long to speak, it might be too late. The value of life is also in the words we say before it's over. Because once a person is gone, all the unsaid words stay forever. One day, I met a homeless man sitting by the street. He had no shoes, no food, no one. But he was smiling. I sat beside him and asked, "Why are you smiling?" He looked at the sky and said, "Because I'm alive." And that's enough for today. His answer hit me like thunder. He had nothing, yet he still saw life as a gift. I gave him food, but he gave me something bigger. A reminder that even in pain, even in emptiness, life still has value. Now, every morning when I wake up, I say thank you. Not just for the big things, but for the small ones too. Warm coffee, a smile from a stranger, a soft breeze through the window. The sound of birds, a deep breath. These are the pieces of life that we often miss. But these are the moments that make life beautiful. Life is short, life is fragile, but life is full of wonder. And once we understand that, we begin to live not just longer, but deeper. One evening, I stood on a hill near my childhood home. The sky was painted orange and gold by the setting sun. I closed my eyes and listened to the wind. I remembered the little bird I once saved. I remembered my father's hospital bed. I remembered my best friend's laugh. Tears came to my eyes, not from sadness, but from something deeper. It was the feeling of understanding, the feeling of knowing what really matters. And it was this: life is not forever, but its moments are. I thought about people who spend their whole life chasing things: money, fame, beauty, power. They run and run, but forget to stop and feel the sun. They forget to say, "I love you." They forget to hug their children or call their parents. They forget that the most valuable things in life can't be bought. Not with gold, not with success. Love, time, peace, kindness, these are free but priceless. And sometimes we only see their worth when it's too late. One night, I visited a woman who was dying. She was in her 90s and had lived a long life. She could not walk, she could barely talk, but her eyes were full of light. I asked her, "Are you afraid?" She smiled and said, "No. I have lived, I have loved, I have no regrets." Then she whispered, "The secret is simple. Make people feel they matter." That's all. Those words struck my heart like a bell. So clear, so true. We are not here just to exist. We are here to connect. After she passed, I could not forget her words. They changed how I looked at my own life. I began to notice small things: a child's laugh on the street, an old man feeding birds alone, a woman crying quietly on a bus. Every person carries a story, a hidden battle, a quiet dream. And when we see others not as strangers, but as mirrors of ourselves, we begin to understand the deep truth: every life is valuable, every soul matters. I started doing one kind act every day. Sometimes it was helping someone carry bags. Sometimes it was just listening to someone who needed to talk. And something strange happened. The more I gave, the more alive I felt. The more love I shared, the more love I received. It was like the world was changing, but the truth was, I was changing. And life responded to that change with beauty. Because when you live with kindness, life becomes full of light. One day, a boy came to me and said, "You helped my mother when no one else did." I didn't even remember the moment, but it had stayed with him for years. That's when I knew what we do matters, even if we forget it. Every word, every smile, every act of care, they leave marks on hearts, they last longer than money, longer than fame. That is the real value of life, the legacy of love we leave behind. There was a time I feared death. I feared the end, the silence, the unknown. But now I don't. Because I know that even when we leave this world, the love we gave, the lives we touched, the moments we created, they stay. They grow. They shine in the hearts of others. And that is how we live forever. Not through breath, but through impact. Not through time, but through love. Now, I often sit with my children and tell them stories. Not about gold or big houses or perfect lives, but about real people. About struggle, kindness, courage, and heart. I want them to know what I learned too late. Life is not a race. It is a gift. And the most successful person is not the richest, but the one who makes others feel rich in love, in peace, in hope. I look at my hands, older now, full of lines. Each line is a memory, a joy, a loss, a lesson. And I'm thankful for every single one, even the painful ones, because they taught me how to live. Not just to exist, but to live with meaning, to live with heart, to live with soul, and to help others do the same. So if you are reading this, I want to tell you something. Your life matters. You matter. Not because of what you own or where you come from, but because you are alive. You can give, you can love, you can change the world, one kind act at a time. Don't wait. Say the words, give the hug, forgive the pain, live fully, love deeply. And remember, the value of life is not in how long it lasts, but in how beautifully we live it.